this off StreamYard. Okay. Says it's live now, but let's give it a second. Let me just make sure it pops up. Let's see. It's always a little bit delayed. Just want to make sure this is good to go.
Yeah, you're up.
Okay, cool. I see it. All right, guys, welcome. Week 2 NFL main slate. Super excited to talk about this one and bringing out a couple very, very sharp players from the Discord. We got Josh and Cody. They've had some big wins. NFL, NBA. Cody almost took down the showdown the other night. Josh is taking down basically every single week. So welcome, guys. Glad to have you on. And how you feeling? How you feeling about the slate in general?
Good. Good. It's one of those slates where there's like a lot of different possibilities. There's so many high-scoring games that it's kind of hard to pick which one you want to focus on. So, for me, with the way I enter, it's usually like how can I get a little bit different, there's a lot of different ways this slate could go.
For sure. Cody, what about you?
I'm excited. I feel the same way as Josh does. I think this slate, everyone's going to go to the Cowboys and the Chargers, and I think you're going to have a piece of that game, but I think all the other afternoon games are going way overlooked.
Yeah. I think a lot of that ownership is going to go to that Dallas game, so make some of those other afternoon games a little interesting for GPPs. But yeah, I wanted to bring out a couple guests here. So before we get into the breakdown, I'll just give you guys a general overview. Josh, you're like 150 lineups almost every slate, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And Cody, you're usually running 2-3 lineups a slate?
Most of the time, I try to just stay with one. Like a slate like this, where I like a couple teams, I'll run like 2 or 3. But most of the time, I try to stay with one. I like entering all the single entry stuff.
For sure. Yeah, I just want to get some different perspective, guys. So, Josh, I'm going to ask you a couple questions just about like your process for building out lineups. How long does it take? What is kind of like your step-by-step? Like, how do you start building out your lineups, I guess?
So I use an optimizer, and a lot of it is like I'll start by – this is the way I used to actually play is I would just go in there and set like a QB with a wide receiver or tight end and then a run back and then crunch out a bunch of lineups and then just use those lineups. And as I've kind of progressed a little bit, I've learned a little bit more about ownership and a little bit more about things like that. So I'm a little bit more likely to see how it comes out the first run and then start Xing out higher owned players or minimizing their exposure levels. So that way I can still get a same amount of projection from them, but it'll be with the lower owned team. So when I'm playing these 150 max or, like any type of millie or anything like that, I don't want to be playing the chalk very often because, that might have a higher percentage chance of winning, but I want to be more unique than that. And so that way, if I do take something down or anything like that, I'm the only one with that lineup. It's kind of a balancing act, trying to figure out how to balance ownership with projection, because usually the higher projected players are going to be the highest owned. And so just finding ways that you can get off of them with leverage. Usually, like if I see something that's really high owned, I try to figure out, well, if he doesn't succeed, but the team still succeeds, what would have had to have happened? And so like today with like Najee Harris, I'll end up with a lot of Steelers wide receivers because the Steelers still do well, but let's say Najee doesn't. Najee's a great play, but what if he doesn't do well again? Then maybe you want to play Deontay Johnson or Claypool or Juju.
Right. Yeah, I think that's super sharp. Kind of like, maybe playing Zeke today instead of like a talent back.
Exactly.
Right. So like, how long in general does it usually take you to do this? Like,
probably about an hour or two of actually building the lineups.
Yeah.
I don't even look at anything until Saturday. It's just everything changes. Ownership is so high on one player on Monday, and then by Saturday it's totally different. So it doesn't really do me any good to do all the building of the lineups on Wednesday and then have to just basically redo everything. So I usually don't look at the lineups till Saturday, and usually takes me about a couple of hours.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah. Do you guys want to get into talking about the slate now?
Let's do it.
Sure.
All right, cool. Guys, you're just coming in. If you could hit that like button, make sure to subscribe as well. All right, so we were talking about a little bit before we went live how like the afternoon games seem to be the games you're going to want more exposure to. A lot of the early games seem to be kind of lower scoring games, and the afternoon games are the ones that have a lot more upside. So I think it's going to be, we're talking about a little bit like maybe getting different and, getting a little more exposure to those early games as opposed to the afternoon games. But it's just hard to get away from some of those afternoon games. Like we have Minnesota, Arizona. Obviously, the Dallas game is going to be chalky. Atlanta, Tampa Bay, even Tennessee, Seattle. Like really, there's 4 afternoon games, but all 4 have just insane upside. So going to be, if you're like taking down a tournament in the early slate, that's probably not going to hold with all the power here in these later games. But I guess we can just start it with like quarterback. I'll ask you guys, who are your top targets for quarterback? Or are you looking to stack? When you play your quarterbacks, do you play any like naked quarterbacks? And obviously, if you guys don't know what that means, just like playing a quarterback without stacking. So give me your general thoughts right now on QB. Josh, we'll start with you first.
Yeah, so for me, I'm trying to avoid Dak and Herbert because they're showing up pretty high on ownership levels, and they are going to be, once again, they're good plays. They're just not something that I would focus on. So right now I'm focusing on guys that have very high ceilings that maybe are kind of getting overlooked either because of price or they're just not in a good game. So right now, like for bigger names, I probably have like Russell Wilson and Brady, who are a little bit lesser owned, who have a good ceiling today. And then kind of like a random play that I've thrown about, maybe 10 lineups at or something like that would be Matt Ryan coming in with, since they sucked so much last week, bring him in. There's a decent chance like Ridley or Pitts has a good game this week and nobody's going to be on him. And it just throws, like it could throw the whole slate off because if Brady gets up big, well, then Falcons are going to be throwing the ball a lot. And with the Tampa Bay's run defense, Falcons are already going to probably be throwing the ball a lot. So it's something that might be low owned. But for like my majority of my plays are probably going to be off of Wilson or Brady, I think.
Okay. Yeah, no, I like the Matt Ryan play actually. Like, I'm not going there, but no one's going to play that Falcon stack, and they're going to be playing from behind like the entire game. I would say most likely they're not going to have like 150 yards this game. Like they're probably going to do a little bit better on the offensive side of the ball. So yeah, that does make some sense. Cody, what about you? Where are you looking to for quarterback?
I think any quarterback in the afternoon game, you can make a case for. Obviously, Dallas and the Chargers, they're going to get a majority of the ownership. But like Josh said, Matt Ryan is really sneaky. I actually really like Ryan Tannehill. I think he's another guy that everyone's going to be off of because of how bad they played last week. I kind of like a Big Ben stack. I'm not playing it. I don't have the gall to do it, but I kind of like Big Ben getting off the Najee hype and playing Big Ben, maybe stacking him with like a Claypool and a Deontay and bringing it back with a Waller or even Kenyon Drake, who should get pass work. Big Ben's he's let me down so much. He's won me a lot of money, but he's let me down even more. And that's, I don't have the nerve or the ability to play any of the noon games. It's going to be, I may play a defense in the noon games or like one position player, but the majority of my lineup, it's afternoon slate or bust.
For sure. No, I like, even though you said you're not going there, I do like that play. Like I'm not doing it either, but kind of like Josh was saying, like everyone's going to be looking to Najee Harris. Why not go to the receivers, right? So that does make some sense. I think it'll be pretty low owned. I'm not super confident of the Raiders are good on the defensive side of the ball. So that does make some sense. I agree. I think a lot of quarterbacks in the afternoon games are kind of where I'm looking to. right? You have, Kyler, obviously. Dak Prescott's going to get a good amount of ownership. I think Herbert will get some ownership. You said Tannehill. I kind of like that as a lower owned play. Wilson. It's really hard to prioritize a quarterback, I think, in the early slate. Like, I think if I was going to play someone in the early games, it would be Hurts. I'm not convinced the 49ers are going to be phenomenal on the defensive side of the ball this year. And I just, Hurts is someone that has a lot of rushing upside. We saw it last week. So I think if I was going to play someone in the early game, it would be Hurts. But yeah, mainly a lot of afternoon quarterbacks for me. Anything else, or you guys want to move on to running back?
Hurts is a guy you mentioned, naked quarterbacks. Hurts is definitely one you can run the good old naked route with.
Yeah, because you don't necessarily have to pair him, right? Because he has the issue with Philly is a lot of targets, right? They have 3 wide receivers, 2 tight ends too. So I don't think you necessarily have to pair him, like you said. Like if I was going to play a naked quarterback, I think Hurts would probably be the guy I would do it for.
Yeah.
I will say I'll probably have some exposure to Josh Allen just because of what happened last week again, where he'll be low owned because, of kind of the letdown of what happened last week. I don't like the weather there per, whole bunch.
Yeah, that's
but
what I was about to say.
Yeah. So the weather seems like it could be a little bit rainy or something there, but I'm not going to stack him huge, but I'll have some exposure to Allen.
Yeah. I like,
and that'll lower the ownership even more.
Yeah. Week 2 is just my favorite week to play just because of the overreactions, right? You saw some teams be let down. Some people are going to avoid them. But I think you can definitely take advantage of some of that for GPPs. All right, let's move on to running back. A lot of solid plays at running back this week. There's obviously the guys at the top look good. Mid-range, things going to get a lot of ownership. Josh, where are you looking to get different, I guess, at running back?
Well, you kind of mentioned it earlier. I like the Cowboys-Chargers game, and I'm trying to stay away from the quarterbacks and the wide receivers on some of it. So, yeah, playing Zeke, I think, is a nice little play. Damian Harris, if you want to pay down a little bit. It's hard to get away from Carson and Harris because they were such a good price point and they are projected so well. That with their ownership, the way that I kind of like to get a little bit different is I'll play Najee Harris, but now I'm running him back a lot of the times in a mini stack with Waller because nobody's paying up for tight end today. And if Waller has a great game, well, Waller's low owned, has a high ceiling. Najee hits his ceiling. That's something that probably not a lot of people are going to be doing. So it's a way of differentiating at running back by getting different at tight end. Is kind of the way I'm looking at it. But yeah, it's really hard to get off of Carson and Harris. But I think Elliott, Harris, and I have some Eckler, which he's kind of middle of the pack. I also like Montgomery a little bit. He looked really good last game.
Yeah, no, that the Bears are definitely a run first team, so I don't mind Montgomery. I guess the one issue there is it's not like Montgomery from last year where he's just going to be out there the entire time, right? You actually have Damian Williams, so I think he's a solid back. He'll be out there on third downs. So that's the one risk, I think. But I like the Eckler play too. I don't think he's going to be super popular. I think we'll get some ownership, but 0 targets last week. That's definitely going to change. They kind of eased him into it too. He only played about 60% of snaps. I think that goes up. So that could be one way too. If you are running a Dallas stack, I think most people are bringing it back with probably Keenan Allen. So maybe you look on the opposite side to go like Eckler. I think that could, if you're building a chalky lineup, that could be one way you get a little bit different. Anyone else really looking to contrarian-wise running back, Josh, or is that basically it?
No, there was that news that came out. I think Eli Mitchell of Fantasy Labs posted something about how he's supposed to get 100% of most of the carries. But last week, I'm I had Mostert everywhere, and I'm I'm done. I don't want none of Niners. I can't go back to Niners.
I just don't trust it. I really don't. I just don't trust Shanahan.
No.
I like Nyheim Hines a little bit because I think that they'll be coming from behind and he catches a lot of, he gets a lot of receptions. So it's something if you want to pay low, if you want to go low owned on somebody and also somebody that might has a high ceiling on a comeback game. If you're running it back, if you do decide to do the stack with the Rams, which I don't think very many people are going to be doing, but I like Stafford as a play, but there's nobody to run it back with. Hines might be an option.
Okay. Cool. I kind of like that for GPPs. Cody, what about you? What are you thinking for running back this week?
For me, when the week starts, I have to tick my 5 boxes with running backs to start. Then I kind of work around it, but you want like home favored, path to 20 touches, involved in the passing, and then get the touches inside the 5. That's what I look at most. But I like Javonte Williams today.
Okay.
He split touches evenly with Melvin Gordon last week. Each of them had 14 rushes. Melvin had the long touchdown run. They're playing the Jaguars. It's rainy. They should be ahead. They should be. The Jaguars defense is so bad. I think Javonte is sneaky. I think he's a guy. I don't have him. I'm a Broncos fan, so maybe I'm a homer, but I don't have him anywhere. But I think he could pop off for 15 to 20.
Yeah, I like he makes more sense to go to than Melvin Gordon, obviously. If it's going to be an even split, he's like $1,400 cheaper. I think he's the more explosive back too. So I don't think a lot of people are going to go down this low for running back. But I think he's one guy that could have a pretty solid game at a cheap price point.
And if I was
another guy,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So another guy I was gonna look to for a cheap running back would be Chase Edmonds as a kind of contrarian play. He's down here at what 49. Yeah. So like I think a lot of ownership if people are going in this range is gonna go to like Eli Mitchell or maybe Kenyon Drake. But Edmonds in a high total game, he is their pass catching running back. He's still gonna get some carries too. He had 12 carries, 4 catches, and 4 targets. He's cheap enough where it's like I'm willing to roll the dice there. Obviously, again, dynamic offense. So he's one kind of contrarian running back play. I don't mind. But yeah, back to you. Where else are you looking to at running back, Cody?
I just know like 1 or 2 guys are going to play Trey Sermon and take down just massive money because Kyle Shanahan hates fantasy football.
I would not be surprised, really.
Yeah, I was when I was building my lineup, I was like, oh man, he's 4,600. That's way too cheap. But he plays for the 49ers. I'm out. I know somebody will do it. I can't do it with my money. I like to play the safer guys. I just can't. I know somebody will, and it wouldn't shock me if he scores over 20.
Yeah, again, you can't like Shanahan said it's going to be Eli Mitchell, but I don't trust it at all. Like historically, they like running a committee backfield. That's why I don't feel confident really with any of those backs. So
I like Kareem Hunt a lot too. Everyone's talking about Nick Chubb. You can get Hunt for $2,500 cheaper. The touch thing kind of sketches me out a little bit, but they were ahead last week against the Chiefs for the most of the game. I think it was like a 17-9 touch split. I'd like that to be a little bit closer, but I think it will be today. I think they just crush Houston, and I think Hunt pushes for 15 to 18 touches, and at 5,800, I mean, he could score 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and I think Chubb is going to get a good amount of ownership. So like you could save some money, save about $2,000, go to Hunt. I think there's a little bit less risk going to a guy like Hunt just because the price point. But yeah, I think that's a solid play in GBPs. I don't think a lot of people are going to do it. And this, like, I don't trust Houston at all, even though they won big last week. I think this is a game that Cleveland just steamrolls them. Yeah. So I think that's a pretty solid GBP play. Anyone else?
I think people are going to see just how bad Houston is today.
You
the
don't
Jaguars
think
couldn't show it last week. No.
Yeah.
The people overreacting like, oh, Mark Ingram's back. I'm playing him. Go ahead. I hope he's like 5% owned because those people, I'm going to bring out the throwing money into the fire gift. It's coming because anybody that plays Mark Ingram is just donating their money.
For sure. One way I kind of like getting a little bit different running back is maybe spending up, right? So like I think the chalky build is gonna be more of those mid-range guys. So like ownership on McCaffrey and Kamara, I think will be lower than it should be. Obviously, they're playing in the same game. I don't mind playing those two together in the same game because they're basically wide receivers too. So like, both guys were chalk last week. I think both are gonna be pretty low owned this week. So those two I think are fine contrarian plays. Again, I don't think a ton of ownership is gonna go there, but obviously the upside is there. And then as we said, like I think this kind of like mid-range 6K range is where a lot of the people are going to go, but for good reason. Like we said, we talked about like good like Najee, Zeke, Chris Carson, a lot of solid plays in this range. Is there anything else at running back, guys, or you want to move on to wide receiver?
I can't. McCaffrey scored almost 30 points last week and didn't score a touchdown. That's so ridiculous.
He didn't get the 100-yard bonus for either. He almost got it receiving and rushing.
That's ridiculous.
Rushing, 89 receiving.
It wouldn't shock me actually it would shock me, but if someone won the Millie, like someone took down the Millie with a McCaffrey Kamara stack for the noon games because nobody's going to play it, I wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't shock me if that happened because McCaffrey has 40, 50 point upside.
Right. And I don't think the Saints are going to be playing from a 30-point lead. So I think Kamara is going to be more involved in the passing game this one. Yeah. So
that's another
those
one.
Two.
The Winston, it's another one. He's not. I bet he don't throw 5 touchdown passes in a game again. I would bet my bankroll that he doesn't have 5 touchdown passes in a game the rest of the year.
Wait, you don't think he's going to throw a touchdown every 4 throws or whatever it was, 5 throws?
Yeah, that's not happening. Not happening.
Cool. All right, yeah, let's move on to wide receiver. So, Josh, I'll start with you. Where are you looking? I know you're looking to get a little more different, some lower owned guys. So who are your like top targets, I guess, wide receiver?
Well, actually with wide receiver, I am getting a little bit chalkier just because I went a little bit different on quarterback and I did a little bit different. So the chalk right now is the Cowboys wide receivers and Keenan Allen pretty much. I mean, they're just taking up most of the ownership, but since I don't have those quarterbacks with them, I feel like I can grab them every once or every few lineups, but Godwin's getting a lot of my ownership. Hopkins is getting a lot of my ownership. Some of the guys that I like the Seattle wide receivers, just like I like the Pittsburgh wide receivers because of going different than Carson or Najee. So basically, it's the same idea with the Seahawks wide receivers, Lockett and Metcalf, playing them because I'm not playing Carson. So that way, when the Seahawks score their touchdowns, are they doing it through the air or are they doing it on the ground? So I mean, Carson might get 15 points, but is he getting the touchdowns? And so that's kind of where I'm looking at. Getting a little different. I like Waddle a lot on the Dolphins. I don't think he's going to have a whole lot of ownership. That game, once again, with the rain, maybe it will lower some ownership. And I like the Vikings wide receivers, actually, because I think that they'll be playing from behind. And Cousins isn't exactly the best quarterback in the world, but, Justin Jefferson could have a big game. Thielen could have a big game, so – I mean, I'm not playing both of them in the lineup or anything like that, but I really like the Vikings wide receivers. It's kind of a low-owned spot where you could throw them in there, and one of them could easily score 2 or 3 touchdowns in a game, and all of a sudden, I mean, Thielen last year just always killed me because whenever I didn't play him, he scored 2 touchdowns, and I don't know why that was, but it drove me nuts. So it's kind of hard for me to completely fade him at this point, but yeah, I like those guys a lot.
Okay. What about KJ Osborne? He's close to min price. He played like 80% of the snaps last game. He ran a ton of routes. I don't think he's gonna get that much ownership this week.
Oh, I think he's projected under 5%, maybe even lower than that. I'm actually just scrolling through real quick. He's projected like 2.3%. So yeah, he's actually a very good, like if you're not wanting to pay up, yeah, I would throw Osborne in there. For me, since I'm saving money in other ways, like I was able to go to the higher end on the Vikings wide receivers. But yeah, I would definitely look at Osborne. I have him in a few lineups, but not nearly as much as I do Thielen or Jefferson.
I just think I think he's going overlooked on the slate, right? Because it's not like he got there on like a couple targets or he got there on like one long touchdown. Like he played a majority of the game at 9 targets. So right. He's just one guy I'm pretty high on this week. I think he's going a little bit overlooked. Cody, what about you? Wide receivers, what are you thinking?
piggybacking off Osborne, I mean, he had 9 targets. He tied Justin Jefferson with 9 targets. Adam Thielen had 10. So he got the same amount of targets as all these guys, where Thielen got 2 touchdowns. Jefferson should have had a touchdown. And then Osborne, he was there all day. That price is ridiculous. I really like him in a massive total game. Another guy, AJ Green. I love punishment, but $3,700. The second corner for Minnesota got absolutely roasted last week. I just have a feeling it burns me. AJ Green always burns me. I won't play him. He goes nuts. Back when I was with the Bengals, anytime I played him, oh man, my shoulder hurts. I'm gonna sit this one out. He'll play like a snap or two. I just have a feeling he got an end zone look last week. He got 6 targets. Everyone's talking about Rondale Moore. They're talking about Christian Kirk. I think AJ Green gets 6 to 8 targets, and I think he gets in the end zone. And at 3,700, I mean, he has potential for a 100-yard day.
Yeah, like the thing with him is, again, he's going to play a majority of snaps. Arizona is a pass-first team. Good matchup, as you said. Even though, like, we can say he's probably a little bit washed up at this point of his career, like at this price point, he doesn't need to do a lot, right? He really doesn't.
I mean, if he gets in the end zone, you're dancing.
Yeah. So I agree. I like that play too. I think he's going a little bit overlooked. Like, I would say probably the chalk spend down option, would you guys say is going to be Cedric Wilson?
Yeah.
People are spending down a wide receiver. Yeah.
It's either going to be him. Well, yeah, wide receiver. Yeah, it's going to be him.
Okay.
I do like Josh's call on Waddle though. With Will Fuller out, that nobody's going to be on that game because of the weather. He is so gifted, and you got the Alabama connection with him and Tua. They use him everywhere. He has the potential to break the slate. One of these slates, he will break it.
Yeah, I think he's got the big play upside, obviously. So, and he's still cheap. Like, I think the price is going to continue to go up on Jalen Waddle. Obviously, like that Will Fuller news, he might be done for the season. So, yeah, I think Waddle is a good buy right now for sure. All right. Anything else at wide receiver, Cody? Any spend up options you're looking to?
I of course, just like with quarterbacks, I love the afternoon games. I really like the Minnesota-Arizona game. Josh kind of hinted at it. I love the Atlanta-Tampa Bay game. That's just chock full of fantastic wide receivers. I really like the Tennessee receivers. Julio Jones was terrible last week. People were saying he's washed. I don't know if he is or not, but at 6,300 might be worth a shot. And then how many times are you going to get a chance to play AJ Green? AJ Brown. Sorry, I got AJ Green on my brain. AJ Brown under 7K. Like he only had 8 targets in week 1, but Tannehill loves throwing to him. I'm just kind of worried. This feels like it's got that really high over under. I'm kind of worried that Derrick Henry just steals this one from everybody.
I mean, the thing with Derrick Henry is, I always say, like, he's going to break the slate probably once or twice a season. He's going to go for one of those games where he goes for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
No, but I like
and I never play him.
Yeah, I don't either. I like your take on the Tennessee wide receivers. Again, played awful last week. Doesn't mean they're going to play bad this week. It's a very high total game. Like AJ Brown, the fact that he's priced sub 7K is, I just think that's very underpriced. Like Julio, I think he's still got a little bit left in the tank too. So, yeah, Tennessee receivers, I think, are good GPP plays. Again, I don't think they're going to get a lot of ownership for sure. But yeah, so like wide receivers for me, again, there's going to be, obviously I have interest in the Dallas. I don't think we'd spend a ton of time on guys like CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen on the opposite side. Those guys are going to get a good amount of ownership, but You guys mentioned that Atlanta-Tampa Bay game. I think looking to a guy like Calvin Ridley makes a little bit of sense in GPPs, right? They struggled mightily last week. They're going to be playing from behind. It's almost a lock they'll be playing from behind. So I think Ridley is a nice bounce back candidate here at pretty low ownership. Because he was chalky last week. I played him. He was about 20%.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that ownership is going to be pretty low on him. So he's one I kind of like to get different because then I think everyone.
Mike Evans is another one.
Yeah,
he disappointed last week. Everyone's going to be on Antonio Brown. Everyone's going to be on Godwin after their big games. Mike Evans, 6,100. Oh my! I didn't even realize he was that cheap. Oh my! That is dirt cheap. It wouldn't shock me if he catches 2 touchdowns.
For sure. Obviously, red zone target. This Atlanta defense is pretty bad.
Oh my!
So yeah, those Tampa Bay wide receivers. I don't think they're going to like anyone's really going to get much ownership from Tampa Bay. But yeah, those guys make for solid GPP plays as well. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about at wide receiver, or do you want to move on to tight end?
There's one guy that you can't play, but I sure wish he was cheaper. Was Russell Gage, just because I feel like he's 4,800, so he's like the wide receiver 2 for the Falcons, and it's just like he didn't get hardly any. I think he got like 2 targets last week or something like that. But once again, the Falcons really sucked last week, but I can't find a way to get to him. But I have a weird feeling about him that he might have a decent game at least for like so it's going to be like probably less than 1% owned.
Yeah, no, and he'll obviously he'll be out the majority of the game too. Again, it's going to be good game script for these Atlanta wide receivers. Okay, yeah, I think that's a solid kind of dark throw. But yeah, let's move on to tight end guys. So I'll start with you, Josh. Are you looking to play more chalk at tight end, or are you looking to get a little bit different? There's not a ton of great options this week.
No. And we actually talked about this, I think, before we went on the air. You're like, I think Kyle Pitts is a great play just because of how much he was high on last week and he just didn't do anything, or at least what we expected him to do. And so I think he's a great option for the Falcons, especially because of the game script. I like the idea of paying up for tight end a little bit. I think Waller and Kittle are going to be lesser owned. Like I said, like my idea of playing Najee and then running it back with Waller in a mini stack is something that I'm kind of throwing into quite a few lineups. There's not a lot of great options. I do like Schultz though from the Cowboys game because he's going to be low owned. He's not going to be one of the main receivers for the Cowboys that people are going to throw in their stacks. He's a nice way of getting a little bit different. So you can also like play a Dak Prescott, throw Amari Cooper and Dalton Schultz in like a 3-man stack. I like him for basically like a low. He probably, I don't know what his ceiling is on something like that, but he's a way of getting kind of cheap to tight end, but also having some value there.
I think Schultz, the only issue with Schultz though is obviously splitting with Jarwin, but that's a cheap piece of this Dallas game. But I don't think a lot of people are going to get to like either of those tight ends. So I think that's a pretty good call.
Yeah, and then if you are going the Hurts route and you do want to pair him with the receiver or certainly pass catcher, Goddard, is an option there. But it's kind of hard to tight end's kind of a weird spot where you can basically punt it or you can go way up right. I think the chalk right now is Noah Fant, and so I'm pretty much just not playing. he's very high on this going into this week, so it's kind of like one of those things where that's a place that it's easy to get different. But yeah, so I like either paying way up. I like Pitts kind of in the middle, but then I like some of the cheaper Cowboys tight ends today.
Yeah, you mentioned Noah Fant. Obviously, he's going to get a good amount of ownership for sure. But it is, if you're looking like to build like an optimal lineup, he looks really solid. Obviously, no Jerry Jeudy. Great matchup at Jags D. Like they couldn't stop Houston, so they're not going to stop anyone. Even though he's going to be popular, I think he looks a really solid play. Cody, what about you? Tight ends, where are you looking?
I either want to pay way down or pay up for George Kittle. He disappointed last week. Like we always talk about, you want to buy low on guys. You never want to pay high. Waller should, if anybody pays up for a tight end, it should be for Waller. I think Kittle comes in really low owned, and he's facing Philly, who's terrible against tight ends. If I'm paying up, it's for Kittle. If I'm paying down, I really like Higbee a lot. I mean, he played 100% of the snaps. Matthew Stafford loves throwing to tight ends. He always has. He ran routes. He ran pretty much every route. I think he blocked on one passing play. He's a guy I could see having a good game. If you want to come off Noah Fant, you could play Albert Okabonum. He got a touchdown last week. He's the other Broncos tight end. They're going to run a ton of 12 personnel with no Jerry Jeudy. He's dirt cheap. Scored a touchdown. Should have scored a second when he fumbled it on the way to the end zone. He's a massive human. You could do a lot worse at 2,900. And then if you're really, really wanting to punt tight end, the opposite side of that game, you got James O'Shaughnessy, who saw 7 targets. Eight. I missed one. He saw 8 targets last week, caught 6 balls. He's 2,700. That is, if you're paying up for all of the beautiful jewels everywhere else, I think targeting a tight end in the Broncos-Jaguars game, it'll make your lineup different, and I think both of them could have decent games.
Yeah, no, I like the O'Shaughnessy call. One, just in general, like the Jags receivers, tight ends, like they're going to be playing from behind almost every single game. So, and O'Shaughnessy played a majority of the snaps. Again, 8 targets, and he's almost mid-priced at tight end. So I think that does make some sense. Like I don't think he's going to get a ton of ownership, but definitely a play that you could use for some salary relief. For me at tight end, again, Josh mentioned him. One way to get different, I think, is Kyle Pitts. I like him a lot here for GPPs. He's going to line up in the slot a lot. They're going to be playing from behind, and even though he let down as a chalk play last week, so nice kind of bounce back candidate there. We talked about kind of, plays I think are going to get a good amount of ownership. Guys like Font, Higbee, those guys look pretty solid. There's not a lot I love at the very cheap end. I mean, you mentioned O'Shaughnessy was probably the one guy I would use, so I was going to completely punt it. Maybe a kind of off the radar play that no one's really looking to, Cole Kmet for the Bears. He did a 5 catches and 7 targets. Clearly their number 1 tight end now over Jimmy Graham, and he's also going to play a majority of the game. So I think that could be one way you could get a little bit different, but yeah, tight end's kind of gross this week. Not a lot of great plays. It's gonna be interesting to see what the ownership is. I'm interested, like, what do you think ownership comes in on like those higher end guys like Waller and Kittle? I don't think it's going to be super high.
I think that since the the Cowboys and the Chargers games, I mean, all their wide receivers are so expensive, it's going to be probably lower than 10%, I would think. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, I think those guys, obviously you guys mentioned them, but those guys do make a little bit of sense in GPPs too. Anything else to tight end, guys? Okay. Defenses, I mean, it's a super high variance position, obviously. You guys kind of know my take on defense. Like, I usually punt it and just hope the defense I play doesn't kill me. Do you guys have any takes on defenses? Like anyone you really like?
If you're paying up, I'd pay up for the Broncos. That's that. Otherwise, just absolutely full send, full punt it.
Yeah,
I hate defenses. I wish
I
they
really
would just
wish they removed it from the from Draftkings.
Yeah,
it's the only drawback, because if you're going to win really, really big money, you have to get lucky on just, and that's all it is. You're pulling teeth, you're flipping coins. Your defense has to score a defensive touchdown, and that's just so fluky.
Yeah, I completely agree. I hate that it's on DraftKings. There's so much variance in the defense that, like you said, I usually just punt it because, I mean, you can spend up for a defense like 4K and they can still let you down. So yeah, really defense is one I usually don't spend a ton of time on. I'm just looking for a cheap defense and pray they get me like 5-6 points.
Just don't go negative. Yeah. That's all I want.
Yeah, exactly. As long as I get some positive, like a couple of points, I'll take it. But yeah, defense.
It's like the only thing I don't manipulate at all on the optimizer. I just like whatever's in there.
Whatever it
just hit
gives
the
you, you're
button.
good.
Yeah.
Whatever defense it gives me, it's meant to be.
Yeah. I mean, I know when I'm hand building, that's like the one thing is I just go in there quickly, open up the defense, and that way I know how much money I actually have because I just throw in some cheap $2,000, $2,200 defense and move on.
Okay. Yeah, guys, are you good staying on for another like 5 minutes or so, answer some questions, and then we can get out of here?
Sure.
Cool. For sure.
Yeah, guys, again, if you did enjoy, if you could hit that like button, make sure to subscribe. Let's see. Got some questions on the Denver receivers. So I do think the Denver guys do make some sense. Obviously, great matchup. And, no Jerry Jeudy. Do you guys have a take on who's going to be like kind of the alpha wide receiver now with Jeudy out?
I would assume Cody probably knows this better than me because he's
it should be Sutton, but I don't think he's healthy. I really don't. I think out of everybody, it's probably going to be Fant. I think he's going to get the most looks. KJ Hamler always offers big playability. Always
if
offers.
He can actually catch a pass, though.
I can't believe he dropped that. There wasn't nobody around him, and it hit him in his face. But he offers massive upside because if he scores a touchdown, he might score two because he has the ability to just get behind the defense. It would be Sutton for me. I'm just worried about his knee. I was watching him in practice and he doesn't look healthy.
Okay. What about Tim Patrick? Because I know he played a lot of snaps. He played I think almost double the snaps of Hamler.
He's steady.
Yeah.
I don't think Hamler played a snap after he dropped that ball.
Yeah.
I think they benched him and they just stuck with Patrick. Patrick played really well last year when Sutton was out. When Sutton tore his ACL in the second game of the year, Patrick stepped in and played real well. He's a big-bodied guy. He catches the ball. He's not afraid of getting hit, and he's playing for a contract. So if you're taking a dart on one, not playing Fant to try to get a little different. I'm going to say Sutton. I think he's going to get in the end zone.
Okay. Let's see. What else do we have here? What are your thoughts on Jared Cook? I think we didn't talk about him at tight end, but he's relatively cheap and he is in a game that's projected to be pretty high scoring, right? We did see Donald Parham play a decent amount, but he didn't really get any targets. So Cook, I'm fine with as a lower owned piece of a stack or bring back. I think that makes some sense for GPPs. Do you guys have any takes on Jared Cook?
I didn't get to him, but I don't mind him. I mean, it's one of those. I got him 3% of my lineups, but I like him. I just didn't get to him.
Okay.
8 targets look good. But he did only play, I think he played 62 or 63% of the snaps. He was out there for their pass plays, but they should have to throw a lot today.
For sure. Yeah, this is most likely going to be a shootout. All right, Gabriel asks, what's your thoughts on Devonta Parker? So he's another guy we didn't really mention. We talked about liking Waddle. Parker is coming in at 5.5. I think he's going to be pretty low owned. Again, fine with it for tournaments. I don't love the play, though. This is a game that is some bad weather, right? Or it's raining?
Yeah. It's supposed to be a ton of rain.
Okay. Any interest in Parker at all for you guys or no?
I just think there's better players in that price range because that kind of ends up where there's, I don't know, that's where I ended up going to Juju or even Robert Woods is in that price range. So it's kind of hard for me to get to him. If I'm gonna go that route to the Dolphins, I'm gonna pay down to go to Waddle.
Right.
Yeah, I feel the exact same. If I'm playing a Miami receiver, I'm gonna save $1,000 and play Waddle.
Okay. Let's see. All right, I think we can end on this one. So, thoughts on Eckler for cash games? Let's see. 7.3. I think he's more of a DPP play. What do you guys think?
I don't play
I'm not
cash.
playing cash. I don't play cash very often.
All I know is to play the chop.
I'm not playing. Yep.
I think there's some guys that are a little bit cheaper than Eckler that probably a little bit more optimal. So
Najee,
I don't know what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I would rather play Najee or Carson or
Yeah.
David Montgomery. One of those guys that are $1,000 cheaper, especially in cash. It's those guys. I would not play Eckler in cash. I mean, he scores 3 points last week if he doesn't get a touchdown.
For sure. All right, one more. So I see a couple of guys mentioning it. Dalvin Cook, one running back we didn't really mention. My only issue with Dalvin Cook is I do think they're going to be playing from behind, but obviously he's a little bit involved in the passing game. I probably not going to do it because of the price point, but you never know. Again, he did 6 catches and 7 targets. So for ownership, maybe, but any interest at all in Cook for you guys or?
I'm not
going there.
I actually ended up having about 10% Cook.
Okay.
A lot of them coming back from my Murray stacks, and then on a few one-off plays and stuff like that. But since I like that game a lot for the scoring potential of it, I have him in probably more than I was expecting to have him. But I kind of like him as a GPP play because I don't think he's going to be high owned at all.
Yeah, I think he's going to be like if people are spending up, they're probably going to go to like CMC or
McCaffrey.
So I think I think Cook goes a little bit overlooked.
He goes overlooked. I like him.
Yeah.
For what Josh said, I like him as a contrarian spend up, especially if you're stacking Arizona and Minnesota. He's a great piece in it.
Yeah. And again, I think as we talked about, he's going to be low owned. So all right, cool. I think that's really going to do it, guys. So thank you to everyone coming to check it out. The live stream, really appreciate it. Josh, Cody, thanks for coming on. It was great having you guys on. Any last words, any last minute piece of advice for anyone?
Just good luck to everybody. And I definitely would look into the Patreon if you can, because the Discord is pretty freaking amazing in there.
Yeah, a lot of sharp guys in there for sure.
Yeah, I'm the same as Josh. If you're a serious DFS player, want to be a serious DFS player, you got to join the Patreon. It's ridiculous the level of players that are in there. You bounce ideas off everybody. All you see after every slate is people posting screenshots of how much money they won. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great community, right? Positive vibes all around. So. Good to have you guys in there, obviously, too. Cool. Yeah. So good luck, guys. Enjoy the games. Let's hope for some big winners. And I will see everyone.
Get the Millie.
Let's get a Millie takedown. I'll see everyone in the next live stream. I will be live personally for the Sunday Night Football slate later tonight. So make sure to check that out, guys. But yeah, good luck today, and I'll see you all later.